Wondery Plus subscribers can listen to Morbid early and ad-free. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
You're listening to a Morbid Network podcast.
Redacted, Declassified Mysteries is a new podcast hosted by me, Luke LaManna. Each week, I dive into the hidden truths behind the world's most powerful institutions, from covert government experiments to bizarre assassination attempts. Follow Redacted on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey weirdos, I'm Ash.
And I'm Elena.
And this is Morbid.
It sure is. Here we are. And we're feeling better.
I was going to say, can you tell because I'm singing and being annoying that I feel 10 times better?
I'm like just feeling better. Like, because I got it after Ash. Because I waited until everybody was okay. And then I decided to fall into it really hard.
You really did. Like you said, it was like that mom thing.
Yeah, my body kept it away till everyone was on the up and up. And then it was like crash.
It was like, oh no.
So I had 2 days of being like pretty ill. But today I'm feeling better, and so is Ash. So
yay,
we're on the other side.
Dude, and Drew still hasn't got it. I'm like, I feel like you're not gonna get it.
I feel like he's not going to either, and I'm proud of him.
He's a weird anomaly.
I'm really proud of him.
I guess he's health.
But he's health.
I think he's health.
You know what, though? I keep saying it to John, and he actually got mad last night because he was like, what are you trying to say? Because I was like... He was like, you're going to have a few more days of feeling crappy. Like, this is what happened to me. And I was like, no, I think I'm going to be fine tomorrow. And then I was like, I go, you hang on to things a lot longer than I do. And he was like, what is that supposed to mean? And I was like, I don't know. You just keep things longer than I throw them off faster. I don't know.
Guys, let's be real. A man cold is a real thing.
I was like,
that's what she's trying to say.
I'm trying to be nice here, but I don't know. Like, you keep it longer. My immune system's just like real quick.
A man cold is a totally different story.
It really is. He was like, shut up.
Like, I'm glad that Drew didn't get it because, like, he did a wonderful job taking care of me, but I was like, I don't really want to return the favor. Like, you know, I'm tired from being sick.
John got a pretty gnarly version of it.
Yeah.
But, you know.
That's our family update.
I'm out of it, so that's good, everybody. I might sound slightly stuffed up, so I apologize for that, but, you know, we do what we can do.
We just have our Phoebe voices on.
Phoebe Buffet.
Which apparently you always have, but...
Yeah, guys, I'm still... I want to talk about that every single time we talk. Like, here we are, we're sitting down again. I have never in my life heard this comparison that I sound like Lisa Kudrow. I've never heard it in my life.
I don't know.
Until we had a podcast.
Even when I close my eyes, I can't hear it. But there's a lot of things I didn't find out about myself until we started a podcast.
I know.
So.
Exactly. But it's wild to me. But that's not why we're here. Why we're here is to talk about crime.
True crime.
And weird stuff.
And crime.
So I think I posted a photo on my Instagram the other day and everybody was like, oh my God, I don't know if I want this episode or I don't want this episode. It's not this episode.
Oh, I was like, I thought that it wasn't that episode
It's
either.
not, but I just wanted to like update on that. So I bought this book called Buried Alive and I've been doing like crazy research on premature burials and like fear of being buried alive.
Great, I'm so excited for that.
So that's going to be an episode for next week because it's just become so intense that I want to make sure I do it right. So I pushed it to next week, but it's coming. So I decided to do like a fun old-timey murder.
Fun.
Nothing's fun. Nothing's fun here, but like, you know what I mean. Yeah. Old-timey, kinda. Yeah. So this one was the murderer's name is Marion Stembridge. It is a man. And because Marion was like a very big man's name back in the day.
Yeah.
Just put it on. I think John Wayne's real name was like Marion. I'm pretty sure.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. But so I found a lot of information in this book called Georgia Tales, Stories of Georgia and Georgians by Ray Chandler. And it has a lot of cool, like, crazy tales from Georgia. I don't know if you could tell that. But it's a really good one. And they did a whole thing on Marion Stembridge, and I was, like, fascinated by it. So Marion Stembridge, this obviously takes place in Georgia. Mm-hmm. He was born August 28th, 1892 in Baldwin, Georgia. He grew up in a pretty prominent family. According to an ancestry search that I actually signed up for Ancestry.com to go look into his family tree for this because it was kind of hard to find information on him.
Wow.
Thank
look
you
at
to the person who actually did a search on him and like set up his family tree because that was awesome.
That's a lot.
His parents were John Wesley Stembridge and his mother was Mary Leverett. He was one of at least 5 children that I could find. He had a brother, Roger, who was an older brother, and he had 3 sisters, Mildred, Martha, and Ellen.
Oh, Mildred. I love that
Mildred,
name.
Martha, and Ellen.
Mildred.
His father passed away in 1925. I'm not sure what of, because again, there's not tons of like detailed information about this.
Probably Prohibition.
Probably died of prohibition.
That's what I
That's
think.
probably what happened.
I would have.
It's just, getting too roaring with it. So he was very close to his mother, and even as he got older, she would financially help him a lot of times. Like he was that kid.
A little trust fund baby.
He was that kid.
Love
yeah.
it.
And basically she would go to bat for him even though when she like probably shouldn't. Because he was always kind of a dick.
Okay.
Just from the get-go.
You know what I'm getting? I'm getting Dandy vibes.
Oh my God. That's literally what I was thinking the entire time.
I love when we're on the same wavelength.
I almost
like that.
put a Dandy reference in here. I love that you did that.
That's
'cause
so
in my
funny.
head, I kept picturing like Finn as Dandy
Immediately
this entire time.
As soon as you started saying like his mom would always help him out and like vouch for him when he shouldn't, I was like, oh, like
They'd
Dandy.
give him money.
Like, I started
and he was a
picturing
dick.
that. Yeah.
Like it's just all, he's a murderer. Like it's just all
Yeah,
there.
that's crazy.
He's Dandy. And, everyone in the area said that the Stembridge family were very nice people, and really the only one who was difficult and quite frankly a real asshole was Marion.
Okay.
He was the only one that everybody was like, what's wrong with you?
Can we call him Dandian?
Dandian. So Dandy. So not a ton is known about his childhood, but people who knew the family said they were good people. He wasn't abused. He wasn't mistreated. None of the kids were,
Okay.
by all accounts. But by the age of 19, his older brother, like something must have gone down, because his older brother and one of his sisters tried to have him committed to a mental health facility in Milledgeville, Georgia.
Oh, dang.
So obviously, I mean, like we said, he was always an asshole. And I think he was becoming a little more aggressive and
Scary.
a little unpredictable. So they were trying to get him committed. It didn't end up happening because he wouldn't agree to it, and he was 19 years old. And his mother also stepped in and said it was not necessary.
Ruh-roh.
But as these things often go, this really created an issue between the siblings, obviously, because now he's not in the mental health facility, but he knows you tried to put him in there.
Yeah.
So there's a problem. So Marion wanted nothing to do with his older brother Roger anymore, and the sister, who I couldn't figure out which sister it was who did it, but he completely cut them out.
Okay.
Didn't want anything to do with them ever again. Like that was
Yikes.
it. And
I mean, I guess I'd be pretty mad too.
he was pretty mad for sure, but he would only talk to his mother and his 2 remaining sisters. Those are the only people he would have contact with. He did go into the army for a spell, but he was medically discharged at one point. There was a point when he did check himself into a mental health facility, but I wasn't able to find any information about what that was for and what happened or how long.
Oh, okay.
And his family wouldn't talk about it.
Well, and maybe they had it like expunged or something
I think
like
it was just
that.
one of those things that like it just wasn't talked about. He did graduate from the University of Georgia School of Law.
Wow.
But he never applied for the bar, so he never actually became a lawyer.
Craig?
But he was Craig Conover, is that you? Hashtag Southern Charm.
Craig.
What? Craig, are you there?
Are your pillows there?
But he did eventually.
Yeah, he did.
Right? There
Yeah.
you go. Do you guys watch Bravo?
Did
No.
he? I don't know. I don't
think he
remember.
did. I'm pretty sure he did.
Craig?
Hey, Bravo heads. Craig Conover, are you listening? You did, right? But yeah. So people actually described him as intimidatingly smart. He was brilliant.
Okay.
Like very, very smart. But brilliant in the bad way.
Yeah,
he used
conniving.
it to be cunning, conniving, manipulating. His siblings and their spouses all described Marion as super entitled. Hashtag Dandy.
Literally.
And just an asshole in general. They all just hated him. And his sister-in-law, who was married to his older brother Roger, said, quote, he thought he was the crown prince of the family.
Oh my God, that's literally
Right?
so weird.
It's so him. Maybe
That's so
I wonder
funny.
if American Horror Story actually like knew this story.
Maybe.
Maybe. So after he graduated from law school, apparently for no reason, he started his own business, and it was like a mail order business, and it was apparently very financially rewarding for him at first.
Okay.
From this, he did do a ton of other random things to make money, and this eventually led him to acquiring a grocery store, so he became a grocer.
Dang.
Which is now called Ryle's Bakery, and it's in the area still.
Oh,
so
wow.
if you're in the area and like you know what that is, that's cool. He also had a lumber yard, and he dabbled in real estate. So he was putting his hands in all different areas now.
A Marion of all trades.
He's a dandy of all trades, and he was successful at all these things, but he was successful because he was an asshole and because he was intimidating people, and he was like using force to get his way.
Okay.
Now, clearly nothing is on the up and up here. It kind of looks like it is, but it's not.
I'm just picturing him like walking into like an open house with like potential buyers and being like, you need to buy this house.
Buy
it has
this house.
10 bay windows. You need it.
I boiled cinnamon sticks on the stove.
You know what that's called? Potpourri, baby.
You know what I did? I set this up. I staged it for you, okay?
I took time out of my day.
I pictured your dumbass family living in this house, and I put in here that I knew you would like.
I staged the place.
That's what he did.
He's using force.
That's what he did. But yeah, and everybody was just around town, you know, was just like, okay, he's a dick that just does good business.
Yeah.
He's just a business dick. That's all he is. And they were all just like, whatever. But he soon opened another business, and it was in the back of one of his like existing stores.
Well, that's already
Whenever
shady.
it's in the back of a store, it feels shady.
Oh, that's in the back building.
That's in the back building. And it was the Stembridge Banking Company.
Quote unquote.
And it was touted as like a private bank.
Yeah, I bet.
So already you're like, oh no.
Honey, that's not a credit union.
In reality, it was just a total facade for bad shit. He was dabbling in like loan sharking and, you know, like just any bad money thing you can think of.
Laundering.
He was going ahead and dabbling in that.
All of the above.
He was also with like poor and like black communities because he was giving them high interest loans that he could later come after them very aggressively for. And he would also take advantage of non-educated or illiterate communities by purposely putting like language in contracts that he knew they couldn't understand, and then forcing them, like intimidating them into signing these contracts.
Jesus. It's also like you're already rich, bro.
Yeah, and but he's getting rich off the backs of lower income families and like people that are being already marginalized in the community. Which
no, and it's
fucked.
like, but like your mom is gonna give you money
Yeah.
anyway, so like, why do you need to do that, you jackhole?
Because he's a dick.
Yeah.
That's just, he liked being an asshole.
Yeah, I'm just mad about it.
Now, according to that ancestry search that I did, it did say, and I couldn't find this in a lot, like any other sources, so I was like, ooh, look at me finding it on Ancestry. He did marry a woman named Lois Denive Marchin in 1927.
Lois.
It also claims they had a daughter named Evelyn, but that's never mentioned again. And he
Okay.
marries again.
Okay.
So this little marriage with the daughter is never mentioned.
Interesting.
But
Well,
in
back
his-
then, too.
But it's in his damn family tree, okay? It's in there.
in a prominent family though, like a divorce.
Yeah.
Back then. That's what Mama Dandy said. She said,
Yeah, she said,
She probably did, to be honest. She may have
I think she might have.
choked on her brandy and went,
That's not working. Well, yeah, so apparently that wasn't working for them. But as his widowed mother, because remember, she's widowed now,
Yeah.
as she's getting older, she obviously needed a little more care. So she moved in with Roger, the older brother. She moved into his house with him and his wife, and she lived there with him. He took care of her, like all was good. And now I said Marion was close to his mother,
Right.
and he still was. And he would visit her a lot, and he would go to Roger's home. But remember, he's not speaking to Roger, so when he would visit, he refused to go inside the house, and he wouldn't speak to Roger, so he would have full-blown visits with his mother through a window.
meet me at my window.
He would stay outside, and she would be sitting in the window because he was that petty.
He was like, Mom, you could use a hero right now, and I could use someone to save. I had to.
I love it. And
That's a lot.
his elderly
ailing
mother,
right?
who can't come outside to sit with you.
It's like, sit at the window seat, biatch.
Sit at the cold ass window, ma. Let's open this window so you can talk to me while I stand here like an idiot.
Also, can't you just walk in the house and like not like, you know, not say much?
Honestly, I would think it would be pettier to walk into the house, not speak to Roger or his
I
wife,
would rather.
and just visit with your mother in his house and then leave without saying
That's some
anything.
Gemini type shit I would absolutely
I
do.
think that's pretty next level, and I think like Dandy / Marion really missed out on an opportunity here.
I think so too, but maybe Roger was the kind of guy where like you couldn't come in his house without speaking to him.
Yeah, I mean, personally, if my sibling, who I wasn't talking to, walked in my house to have a visit with my mom, they'd be like kicked so far down the street.
Yeah, I
that
would personally
they
escort
would
them
split
out.
in two, but
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You gotta try it, I guess.
Shoot your shot, Dandy.
Shoot your shot. But he didn't. He would just make his mom talk to him outside the window. And again, Marion was always known around the area, even since he was younger, because he was the only asshole in that otherwise normal family. But now that he was an adult, he was really becoming kind of a like shady figure in the community. Many people thought of him kind of as just someone who was weird, kind of eccentric. He was cold, he was distant, he was definitely not like inviting conversation. Like he would just kind of walk through and you just don't even maybe tip your hat to him. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
you do. I don't know what they did back then, just tip their hats.
I have literally no idea.
But someone who didn't like, he was definitely someone who didn't like to chat. He didn't like small talk, which like I feel him on
Same.
that. He wasn't looking to make tons of friends. He just went about his business, polite but quiet. But they also said that he only ate cheese and canned goods.
What? Why? What? My lactose intolerant ass just like literally had to excuse myself to go to the bathroom. Like, I'm like, hold on, actually. The thought of only eating cheese and canned goods with my IBS over here, I'm shook. I'm literally shook right now. Like, you're just eating cheese, beans, and soup, sir. Like, that's not on the pyramid. It is on the pyramid, but you have to complete each step of the pyramid.
But you can't just have like one part of the pyramid, sir.
No.
Like,
Are canned goods even on the pyramid? No.
and he was very particular about his canned
About his
goods.
canned goods.
He would only pull a canned good from the back of the shelf.
Oh.
Because he had this weird thing where, which I'm gonna be real, like I know it's neurotic, but like it's kind of true that they push the ones they want to sell to the front.
No, it's true. Actually, one of my really good friends always picks the second thing, which like
Well, when I read this, I was like, oh no.
yeah, and
'Cause
ever
I
since she
always
told me
pull
that,
the back one.
I usually pick like the second or third one
I
because she told
literally
me
go to
that,
the back.
and she was like, yeah. And now I'm like, yeah,
And now I'm like, yeah.
canned goods from
Now
the
we're
back,
all like,
please.
yeah. So, you know, here we are. We're like, yeah.
Like the milk. Ever since I was younger,
milk,
like if Ma
always.
sent me to get milk, I'd always take the back one
Always.
because they put it there first.
just look at the dates, guys. So the closest date is always sitting there staring you right in the face in the front
Yeah.
row. If you pull from the back, you're like, oh, okay, I'll have this milk for a full ass month.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Literally,
The other
zoot your
one's
hand
like,
to the back.
you better drink that in 48 hours or you're going to be chewing it.
Do you ever buy milk and it's literally like I always pull from the back, but in the past there's been circumstances where like maybe Drew goes to
There's
get the
been
milk,
moments just slip up.
and it's like the due date is literally like 2 days from now, and I'm
due
like,
date.
what do you think I'm gonna do with this milk in 48 hours?
You're like, do you think I'm just going to like bathe in it
Like
real
this
quick or
gallon of
something?
whole ass milk, which
Yeah.
like is never in my house, but
You're just
what?
gonna chug that.
What?
Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
A lot
And
of
you know what?
questions for the lactose industry.
Marion felt the same way. But back then, I think it was only weird though because he only ate canned goods and cheese. So
Yeah.
like that made any other kind of neurotic behavior with that canned good or cheese
little weirder.
a little weirder and more eccentric.
Maybe he was like scared of. Maybe he had like some, I don't know.
He was scared of a lot of things. He was very paranoid.
I wonder
He was
if he
a paranoid
had
guy.
like here I am armchair diagnosing, but I wonder if he had like some kind of OCD or something.
I mean, I think he was just a paranoid man because I
Yeah.
think he did a lot of bad things. He knew he fell over a lot of
he's looking
people.
over his
He
shoulder.
fell over a lot of families. He was always like, we'll get into it, that he was always worried about being poisoned. Like a
Oh.
king, he was always worried about being poisoned.
So maybe that's why he only ate canned goods, because you need to
Maybe.
can open them.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Is like it's a little more tamper proof.
And then I
canned
guess
good.
cheese
The
is
cheese, I
just-
guess it's like cheese is mold, so it's like you might as well just go with it.
Yeah.
Who's gonna poison cheese?
Wow, I can't imagine his life. Like dead ass. Gross, but dead ass.
Dead ass.
His ass may as well have
I need
been
to
dead.
know about your GI tract, man.
I do. I'm so interested.
But, again, everybody knew him as cold, distant, just quiet. Nothing really, crazy. But if you were doing business with him, it was a different Marion. People who dealt with him in business said he was ruthless. Ruthless. He would get super aggressive and intimidating wherever money was on the table. Oh. If we were dealing with money, he's going to f you up. He's like a mob
He's
boss.
gonna f you
He's
up.
going to f you up.
Man.
In fact, he was known to always carry at least 3 guns with him at all times. He would have a German army issued 9mm, and it's called it's like a Walther P38 semi-automatic.
It's like that.
I read it in that book. Gun people, you can tell me if that's crazy. Because actually somewhere I read that it was weird because he kept it in his coat pocket. And somewhere I read that's a weird gun to have in your coat pocket. I think I'm imagining it's not one of those little ones.
Maybe it could go off easily or something.
And I imagine it's probably cumbersome. It's probably not one of those little pocket ones.
Yeah, but we don't know what kind of jackets he was repping.
I don't know. But then he would also carry a leather briefcase with 2 guns in it.
Okay.
At all times, everywhere he went.
See, that seems
armed
like
to the teeth.
That seems like it would be more difficult because you have to open your briefcase to get access.
You do, but maybe it's because he has that one, so
is
he's
true.
ready to go pow pow, and then while you're whoa, he's opening his briefcase.
Yeah, pow pow,
pow
whoa.
pow, whoa.
See, I picture him with one in his pocket, he's an asshole, so he needs a shoulder holster.
It would be because this is what the 50s or whatever, he's out of the 20s.
Yeah.
And I feel like he should have those suspenders and the shoulder holster.
Yeah, me too.
Make it look cool at least. But no,
Guns,
he's
but
just
make it
walking around
fashion.
with a briefcase.
Yeah.
Like a turd.
Right.
That doesn't seem real. But yeah, that's what he did. I don't know. But so he was paranoid. I mean, that shows you how paranoid he was. He always felt like he had to be armed to the teeth.
I guess.
And at some point, he must have left his first wife, but I can't find when that happened.
Okay.
Either way, in 1947, he got remarried.
Okay.
This time, he married Sarah Jordan Terry. She was an English teacher at the Women's College of Georgia, and according to multiple sources, she was described as, quote, big and mean as sin.
I mean, she does have 3 names.
Which, wow.
If somebody described me as big and mean as sin, I'd be like, you damn Skippy.
you damn straight I am.
Damn Skippy.
So, I mean, wow. Okay. Good for him.
Yeah, that's a yikes.
So 1948 was when his first real legal trouble hit. He got into a couple
Surprised it took that long.
little scrips and scraps there.
Squabbles.
But this is when she got whoa. He means business.
Whoa, baby.
So a man named Johnny or Richard, I've seen it twice in several sources. Some people call him Johnny, some people call him Richard. This is also a time where I see that people will have a name like Stephen, as we'll see later, and people called him Pete.
Yeah.
So none of it makes sense. So maybe his name was Richard and they were like, hey, Johnny, come here.
Well, maybe it was a middle name type situation.
Yeah. And sometimes it just wasn't, and they just called him a different name.
Yeah,
sometimes his name was Steven, and they were like, Pete.
The
come here.
40s.
So, it happens. Either way, his last name was Cooper.
Okay.
I'm going to call him Johnny, because that's just fun.
Johnny
And I married a
Coops.
Johnny, so I'm just going to go with it. He had been in debt with Marion for a while. He was one of those lower income customers who Marion really took advantage of with his high interest rates. He had loaned him $800 plus a ton of money for insurance, through him, to get a 1941 Chevy car. That's what he was doing. He would loan for car loans and house loans,
Sure.
mortgages. He added a ton of extra fees onto this, and he was ruthless with collecting that money. And Cooper had his brother and his mother, Emma Jonikin, be his co-signers for this loan. So they were also on the hook for the money as well.
Okay.
Now, a few months after getting the car, he was in an accident, and he went to Marion for help using that insurance that he had purchased to fix it.
Right.
But when he got there, he discovered that Marion had charged him for the insurance, but he had never actually got the insurance for him.
Oh my God.
So when he needed it fixed, it was just be more money. He was like, now you just have to pay for the whole thing. Now, there are 2 small little deviations of the story here, but it all goes to the same place. It's just I'll tell you. So one was that one of the stories says that Cooper dropped the Chevy off in front of Marion's store with a note that said, "You can have this pile of steel for my note." The note meaning like the loan.
Sure.
And this pissed Marion off, obviously. The other story says that he just stopped making payments on the car after this insurance, and this pissed Marion off.
I like the first one because it's more petty.
I feel like the first one happened because I feel like that's like weird
Drama.
to make that up, and it's a lot of drama. Either way, Marion was pissed, and it was over money in that loan. So he ended up going to Cooper's home to deal with this.
Aye.
And he brought along his business associate named Sam Terry with him.
You mean business associate?
Air bunnies. His plan was actually to beat out of Cooper.
Yeah.
He brought brass knuckles. He was like ready to like mob boss this shit.
Damn.
But when he got there, he wasn't there.
Okay.
His aunt and his mother was there. He decided, since his mother was actually a co-signer on the loan, that she was the second best one to go after. And he did. He told her he would get his money one way or another, and he would do it by any means possible. So he was like, "You better get me that money."
Oh, man.
Of
Never
course-
co-sign a loan.
No, just don't. And of course, there was some kind of disagreement that ensued, and Marion pulled out a gun because, remember, he is always carrying at least 3 on his person at any given time, and he started shooting wildly at Cooper's mother, Emma.
Oh, my God.
He shot her 4 times and his aunt once.
Are you kidding me?
Yep. Nope. Of course, police were called. And when people heard this commotion, they immediately started like running towards this place because it's the 50s and they're like, let's
Yeah.
go help someone.
Yeah.
So Officer Eugene Ellis arrives on the scene. He's going to be a big player in this whole story. Officer Eugene Ellis. He literally stated that when he arrived, he watched Marion hand the gun to his associate, Sam Terry, and Terry just took it. And he said he later asked him why he just took the gun without hesitation. And he said, "With Marion, what would you have done?"
Yeah, I'm taking
Which
whatever
tells
he
you,
gives
like,
me.
damn, like, are you kidding me? So Cooper's mother, Emma, died from her wounds, and his aunt survived.
So he's
Now,
a murderer now.
he's officially a murderer. And he attempted to murder both of them.
Uh-huh.
Both Marion and Sam Terry were indicted on those murder charges. So Officer Ellis had to go to Marion's office and serve him the warrant for his arrest. In the book, Georgia Tales, Stories of Georgia and Georgians by Ray Chandler, Ellis said that he got there and he just stood in front of Marion, who was sitting at his desk, and Marion just stared at him. And he said, quote, "He had crazy eyes that could stare right through you, but I could always stare him down. I told him, 'Mr. Stembridge, I've got a warrant for your arrest.' And he said, 'Can I see the warrant?' And when I showed it to him, he pulled a gun out of his desk."
Yes. I'd be like, either way, you're under arrest, and you're going to be even more under arrest if you shoot me.
I'd be like, "You're going to be in so much more trouble now.
Put that away.
What are you
Stop
doing?" Well, Eugene Ellis, who is like this like crazy badass at this moment, had to wrestle Stembridge down on the ground and get the gun away from him to arrest him. But
Oh my
he
goodness.
did. He said, quote, "He was raising hell the whole time, saying how his rights were being violated." And he said the state solicitor, whose name was Shep Baldwin, he'll be mentioned later too.
Shep, I love it.
Shep Baldwin, of
Southern
course.
charm all over the
It is.
place.
This is why is this so much Southern charm?
Because Georgia.
Because Georgia. But he said Shep Baldwin later told me the biggest mistake I ever made was not killing him right then and there when he pulled that gun.
Yeah, because
that's true.
I bet he's going to kill some more people, I feel.
I bet he's gonna do some things.
I feel.
So he was released on bond.
For why, though?
Because I forgot to mention that Cooper, his mother and aunt, were black. So I just want to put that out there. Take that from that what you will. But he was released on bond, and his trial was in July, and we'll see that might play more into this a little
That's
bit.
really up.
I'm not saying either way. I'm just saying look at the facts here.
Yeah, that's so fucked
So
up.
the judge for the trial was Judge George Carpenter, and the defense attorney was another guy named Marion Ennis, who was actually Marion's. Now this is going to be crazy. Hold on. So Marion Ennis is now the lawyer.
Yes.
And he was actually Stembridge's brother Roger's wife's cousin.
Okay. That's a
Anyway,
lot.
okay.
That's a fucking
I just
lot,
had
but
to
I
say it-
followed.
yeah, I wanted to say it slow so you could just try to follow
So
that.
Marion is Marion's brother's wife's cousin. I got
Yes.
it. Hey.
He was put on the case because his brother Roger was not a person, and he actually tried to help his brother, even though
Or was he a person? Because his brother murdered someone.
He was a person, but you know what I mean?
He wasn't his brother.
He was trying to help him out,
Yeah.
even though he was... Yeah, exactly. He wasn't a brother. That's what it is. So he ended up being convicted because...
Good.
Hello.
Because murder.
Because literally, like, hello.
Because, like, how do you... Yeah.
Like, he was literally standing over a dead body and a wounded person.
Holding a
and
smoking gun
he was
that he then
holding the gun
handed.
that he then handed to his associate.
Right.
He was sentenced to 3 years in prison.
For a whole ass murder and
For
a whole ass
manslaughter.
attempted murder.
And
Good.
attempted manslaughter. That's what they were calling it.
Wow, that's cute of them. What
That's
a
why I'm
fucking
saying, like,
bunch of assholes.
things were weird back then. So
Things were racist back then.
things were real racist over here. But it's important to note that Marion Stembridge took this loss as his lawyer's fault, as Marion Ennis's fault.
Yikes.
And not the fact that he was found with a gun in his hand at the scene of the murder, standing over the dead body. He didn't think that was the fault.
Why
He
would
thought
that
it
be
was-
his fault,
It was
Elena?
Marion Ennis's fault for not taking that and turning it into an innocent.
When life
Yeah.
gives you lemons.
You know? So he blamed Marion Ennis for this whole thing.
That's going to go well.
Weirdly, Sam Terry, his accomplice, just vanished before his trial date and was never seen again.
Makes sense.
So weird. I don't know.
Crazy.
So out of the blue.
Whoa.
So while out on bond during the appeals phase of his trials, he moved into the top floor of the Baldwin Motel, or hotel, excuse me.
I was like, he was not up
He
in
was
a
not
motel.
a motel guy. He was a hotel guy.
Motels don't
and
have top floors.
They don't. And he just completely left and abandoned his wife Sarah.
Good.
Like, just was like, bye.
As
They'd
one
been
does.
married for like 2 years at this point.
She's like, you know what? Better off.
So according to the Georgia Tales book, while there, quote, he had dozens of locks and bolts put on the door of his room and would not allow the maids to clean the room unless he was there. He kept a large refrigerator in the room padlocked. Rumors spread, likely originating from the maids, that he had put sheets of glass on the floor to guard against someone trying to electrocute him, and that he had put sheets of lead between the mattresses of his bed because he feared someone would try to kill him with x-rays.
What?
He was really just trying to hedge his bets. He was just,
wait, how are what?
just
He was
really trying to
afraid
make sure.
someone was going to kill him via X-ray.
yeah,
Okay,
obviously.
alrighty.
Yeah, obviously. Or someone was going to electrocute him. Those are two very common methods for murdering people. Electrocution
Through the
and
floor.
X-ray
Electrocuting
exposure.
you through the floor. Like, can they not electrocute you anyway else?
The amount of cases we've covered where people have been electrocuted or exposed to radiation through X-rays. It's crazy.
What
It's
happened
an
to this
epidemic out there.
man's? What happened?
Yeah, he's having a real moment. His appeals were rejected, which is shocking. But he was actually freed on a weird twist of events. He fired Marion Ennis as his lawyer, and his new lawyers argued that he was convicted on a testimony that was actually perjury. So they just let him go.
All right.
So he murdered someone. They just let him go. Later, they looked into this and they realized he likely just bought his way out of that conviction.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But they were going to use some kind of like weird little loophole. Now, around this time, and I'm sure they regret it later. So around this time, he was also sued by a former customer of his bank because he loaned this guy $50. And he ended up having this guy pay like $550 on a $50 loan.
Whoa.
So one of Marion Ennis's associates named Eva Sloan actually had this man sue Stembridge in small claims court, and the man won, and Stembridge had to pay the full amount back. So he blamed this loss on Marion Ennis as well because it was his junior associate that sued him, basically.
Okay.
Her name was Eva Sloan. She'll come back later too.
Do you know Sloan is one of my favorite
Eva
names?
Sloan.
I'm just saying Sloan is one
Oh,
of my
I thought you
favorite
said
names.
Diva. I thought you said Dina Sloan is one of your. I was like, that's a very specific name.
I
but
said,
yeah.
did you know?
No, I didn't know that.
But now you know.
Well, so Marion Ennis is now a target for
Yeah.
his hatred.
Of course.
And now Eva Sloan is now not his favorite person either.
Okay.
So we're not racking up some good points here.
No. I need to also know what's in that padlocked refrigerator.
I know. I gotta know. Well, Sarah divorced him finally, or started the whole process.
mean Sarah.
And she claimed that he was like cruel, abusive, just a terrible person. She said he slept with a gun under his pillow, and that he basically did that whole king thing where he would have, when she would make dinner, he would either switch the plates or make her eat some of his food to make sure that she didn't poison him.
Imagine John doing that to you. You're
No.
like, here's din, and he's like, I want your plate.
I'd be like, dude, make your own food. I'm going to make my own food. You make your own food. None of us will be poisoned. So a couple of years later, at the end of 1952, he was in trouble with the IRS. Because
Yeah,
of
the
course he
IRS
was.
gonna get you.
And you didn't think this guy was going to get away from the IRS.
No,
There's
nobody
no way
does.
he was paying taxes.
No.
Like, that's not a thing that was happening.
No.
So he was not paying taxes at all for like decades.
How do people think that they're gonna get away with that?
I know. And he was also on his taxes that he did pay. So apparently when the agents showed up to be like, hey, we're going to charge you with tax evasion, he said, you know what? I'll pay you $10,000 to make this go away.
That's it?
And
back then.
And they said, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
And they were like,
most people can be bought.
Well, and they were like, we were going to mull this over. We're going to see what's happening. So they left. And they come back on January 6th, 1953. So like a few weeks later. And they said, sure, we'll take that $10,000. And we'll forget that you just failed to pay taxes for years. And he was like, cool. And they were like, oh, actually, make that $10,000 each. So they were like, I want $10,000
Per person at
and
the
they want-
IRS?
No, like the two people.
Oh, gotcha.
So they were like, I want $10,000 and he wants $10,000.
I was like, that's a lot of thousands.
And he was pissed, but he was like, fine.
What else are you gonna do?
He goes, he gets $20,000 that he just had.
I was gonna say, exactly.
And
He's
he
so
just
mad.
comes in, he hands it over, and then they announced that they were wearing wires and he was under arrest for tax evasion and attempted bribery.
I love it. Apparently everybody cannot be
I
bought.
love it. He went to trial in April, and April 27th, he was convicted of all charges. The judge told him to get all his shit together and that he was going to come back on May 4th for sentencing.
Sure.
So they were like, you're going to go away for a while.
Doubt he's coming back on May 4th for sentencing.
because this was on April 27th, so it's only a couple days away.
Yeah.
Only a few days away that he has to come back. Judge George Carpenter, who like presided over both of his trials, got a ton of death threats over the next couple of days over the phone, and he said he knew they were Marion, who was 61 years old by now, by the way. Now, after this, he just went radio silent for a few days. Like, no one heard from him.
Because
no
he's
one knew what he was
leaving.
doing. And then May 1st came. And on this day, he randomly mailed 2 big suitcases to one of his sisters who lived in Washington, D.C. Both of them had like locks on them. I cannot find what was in these suitcases.
Do you think it was just money?
I don't know. I imagine maybe.
Probably
because they
money.
were his sisters that he like that he cared about.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, what? Maybe there's like evidence. There.
Maybe he,
there's
like-
like more she did in there.
Maybe he like liquidated all his assets somehow, like Erica Jane
Maybe,
style.
but like,
And
I want to know.
maybe
I'm
he
like,
just wanted to make
guys,
sure they were taken care of before he disappeared.
I'm shook. Well, also apparently on that day, May 1st, which this was a Friday, he went to Marion Ennis's office a few times, his lawyer, who he blames for everything. He wasn't there all day.
Good.
But he kept coming back and looking for
cat
him.
came back.
And people in the office were like, what's
Nervous.
happening? But they were just kind of like, oh, why does he need to talk to him? Like, no one was thinking anything of it. So May 2nd, the next day, that was a Saturday, and it was a big day for several reasons. One, this was the day Marion Stembridge finally snapped, and we're going to get to that in a minute. Two, it was the town's kickoff sesquicentennial celebrations.
what?
Yes. I'm going to set the scene real quick. It was the 150th birthday of the town of Milledgeville, founded in 1803.
Cute.
On that Saturday, May 2nd, there was a parade planned and a huge ball and pageant to crown the queen of the sesquicentennial.
Yeah, send me there.
No, thank you. Don't give me any of that. But according to the Atlanta Constitution newspaper on May 4th, 1953, quote, more than 2,000 people, their hearts warm with pride and hands warmed with applause, gathered at Davenport Stadium on the Georgia Military Campus for the presentation of what a narrator called a home folks story enacted by home folks. 500 Baldwin County citizens of all ages and collection of rolling stock, which included everyone from an early settler's jackass to carriages, tandem bicycles, and something else, paraded across the fields to present the story, which began with the Native Americans and ended in the president. In the president, the present. So basically, it's like, woo, we're going to watch this whole reenactment of the town being born. Everyone's psyched about it.
Yeah.
We got donkeys over here. We got tandem bicycles. We got horse-drawn carriages. Everyone's having a ball.
Wow, okay.
The streets were all decorated with red, white, and blue, and there was all kinds about the town's history.
It's I Know What You Did Last Summer.
It literally is what I was thinking of.
Oh my god, I love that we're on the same wavelength
I was
today.
literally thinking about the Croaker Queen.
Yes.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yes.
I was like, oh my God, we are one.
I know, I love it.
Oh, a lot of people dressed up like the 1800s, like gear.
Get it.
They carried around fake muskets that just shot fireworks out, which sounds not safer than real muskets to me.
Sounds real
but,
danger.
Like maybe just carry around real muskets at that point because you could literally kill someone with fireworks.
Either
but
way.
okay. And again, reenactments, parades, presentations, pageants, parties, picnics, food, dancing.
Davenports.
Just lots of fun. The governor was going to come.
Obviously.
Big deal this birthday. Big deal.
It sounds like the 4th of July for this small town.
And it was going to go on all week. They had
damn.
planned all week, but this was like the kickoff.
Remember when things
celebration.
used to be fun? I mean, I don't, but
Yeah, I mean, this was, I imagine it was like, this pageant sounds horrifying, but like, that's just me.
why?
Because I am who I am. So, while this is all happening and about to kick off in the afternoon with the parade, in the morning, Marion Stembridge is plotting some shit.
Yeah.
After a bit, he drove his car to the home of Shep Baldwin, the state solicitor. He was the one who had chosen initially to prosecute him on that murder. Now, Shep was in his home that morning, and he watched Marion drive up in his car through the window, and he said he just sat there for a while, and then he just left without doing anything. And so later he realized that Marion likely saw that there was no car in the driveway and assumed he wasn't home, and that's why he left.
Okay.
In reality, Shep's wife had that car and was using it that morning, and that's why it wasn't in the driveway.
Thank goodness.
And he was like, and it definitely saved his life.
Yeah, of
because
course it
later
did.
we find out that he was on his list to kill that morning.
Oh my god, he has a list?
Yeah. So he went back into town and he creeped outside of Judge George Carpenter's office for a while. And witnesses said he was just staring in the windows, but the judge wasn't there that morning.
I love that, like, nobody's there that morning.
Nobody's there. It's not working out for him. He then walked into the office of J.C. Cooper, who was the clerk for the Superior Court, and he just stood in front of him while he sat at his desk. And the clerk was just like, "Hello, Mr. Stembridge," like just said it, and he just stared at him and then left. Uh-huh. And he was like, "What does that?" And he said he like propped the door open before he left. So he was like,
What?
What the? And later, what they think he was like, he was definitely on his list, the clerk, but he was lower on his list. So and I think what we're going to find out later is he needed to do this quick, what he
Right.
was planning. And so he was going after the bigger targets first. And then
Okay.
he was checking to make sure where these other people were, and he was making sure he had an easy access to get them.
He could just
quick.
walk by and
so
shoot
he
him
was
through the
propping
door.
open that door to be like, "I'll be right back."
Yikes.
Yeah. So then around 10 a.m., he went straight to Marion Ennis's office.
I bet.
And as you can imagine, Marion Ennis is probably number one on that list.
Mm-hmm.
His office was above the campus theater, which showed movies and like shows and all that stuff. It's like this old-timey, cool-looking theater.
Like the Stars Hollow.
Yes, that's
red and
exactly
white.
it. Yeah. Red and white. It's like the red and...
white. It's not the diner.
I think it's the red and white movie theater.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
you're
I
right.
think you're right. Yeah, whatever. Gilmore
it.
Girls. You love it. We love it. We all love it.
Here we go.
So the campus theater was like that, and they'd had lines around the block that day because everybody was out that day. Stembridge walked right by this whole crowd of people. Marion Ennis's associate, the attorney I talked about before, Eva Sloan, was also in the office. And again, she had worked on that case to sue Stembridge for that man who was made to pay like $550 for $50.
Right.
She was there, but she was definitely on the list, but she had just left Marion Ennis's office and was in another office talking to another attorney.
Oh my goodness. I love how the stars are aligning for everybody
It's
so
crazy.
far.
And that other lawyer said Sloane's back was to the door and he was watching, like he just happened to see over her shoulder that Stembridge walked right by the door. And he was like, what is going on? And he walked right down the hall towards Marion Ennis's office. Then suddenly the people, Sloane and that other attorney, heard loud pops. Now Stembridge suddenly ran across the hall and out the front door, past the other attorneys. Sloane ran into Ennis's office and found him lying face down in a pool of his own blood. Stembridge had shot him once in the shoulder, once in the stomach, which would have killed him, the coroner later said. But then when he collapsed on the floor, he stood over him and shot him in the back.
Oh my goodness.
Now, Sloane later recalled that blood literally gushed from his mouth as he tried to talk to her, and that he grasped onto her arm for support as he breathed his last breath.
Oh.
Yeah, she said he literally like died in her arms.
Oh my goodness. I can't imagine how heavy that must be.
Oh my God. And like they worked together. Like that's like crazy.
Yeah.
So someone from the law office actually yelled out the window to the crowds below that somebody had shot an attorney and chaos just went nuts.
Oh God.
So this is happening. And Stembridge walked quickly out of that law office and into another office building called the Sanford Building on the other side of the theater. People in line said he walked by them and tipped his hat to them as he did.
This is a movie.
Right? And he walked up the stairs, past the offices, and down the hall to the office of Stephen, or what people knew him as Pete, Bivens. Bivens was on the list because he had represented someone who sued Stembridge in a false mortgage, like foreclosure kind of thing. And he had also represented Sarah Stembridge in her divorce against Marion. So several people actually told him during that whole thing, go easy on Marion, because they were like, he's scary.
He's terrifying.
And he said that he wasn't worried at all because people were like, he literally murdered someone. Like we all know he did. And he tried to murder another person, like chill. And he was like, no, I'm not worried about it. He was 27 years old, Bivens.
Invincible.
So he's invincible. And he was like, you know what? He's 61 years old. What is he going to do to me?
Yeah.
And then he was like, I also carry a Colt 45 on me at all times.
And 2
So, like,
zigzags.
so whatever. Exactly. So he was like, I'll protect myself. Well, that morning after shooting Marion Ennis to death over his beefs with him, he walks right into the office of Bivens and just stands there. And he's just breathing heavily and looking wild in the eyes. It was even weirder because he barged into a closed office while Bivens was like dictating something to his secretary. So his secretary is just standing next to him, like taking notes. And Stembridge, I think the secretary's name was Jean Stockham, I believe it was. Stembridge just barges in, just stands there like a wild animal. And then his secretary looked him right in the eyes, and she said later that Bivens just said, "Good morning, Mr. Stembridge. What can I do for you?" Like what? There was a pause, and Stembridge just raised his gun and shot. And he shot until his gun clicked and no ammunition was left. He ended up shooting Bivens 4 times in the chest as he was sitting at his desk with his secretary standing right next to him.
And the secretary was just standing there?
Yep. And I guess Bivens did raise his own gun, try to raise it, but he didn't have the strength to like pull the trigger, so he just dropped it. But what is crazy is Bivens didn't die right away. Even with 4 shots directly to the chest, he got all his strength, stood up while being shot, like in the middle of being shot, and started charging at Stembridge.
Whoa.
As this is happening, his secretary, Jean Stockham, is screaming, trying to hide, but screaming for help at the same time. Stembridge is trying to put another magazine into his gun.
Girl, grab Bevins' gun.
To shoot Bivens more. Since Bivens is apparently the Hulk, so he's like, I have to keep shooting this guy. Before he can do that, Bivens tackles his ass down and manages to grab Stembridge's gun from him. Bivens takes off down the hall with the gun, but collapses halfway down the hall onto the gun.
Oh my.
So he's literally got halfway down down the hallway with this guy's gun, fell onto it, and he died.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I
And
really thought he was going to live.
I know, it's so sad.
What a
And I was
hero,
trying to
though.
figure out which one, either Marion or Bivens here, one of them, like Marion Ennis, one of them left behind a wife and 2 young children.
Oh.
Yeah. So both of them were very young. So
Yeah.
it's like really sad. Now, a chiropractor in the office, I think his name was Dr. Brown, actually. He was in the same office building, but he had like a different office in there. He had to hide one of his patients under his desk, and he was the one who called police. And he watched Stembridge like run out of the building. So the police were
Imagine
already
you're just
coming.
getting adjusted and this happens.
How terrifying would this be? And you have to like hide under this guy's desk. You don't know what's going on. It's the 50s. You're like
halfway through an adjustment and you're like, I'm really
you're like,
uncomfortable
I
and now
feel-
I'm crouching under a desk.
I feel very up right now. This is not helpful.
You're like, I'm
at
making
all.
3 appointments next
Yeah,
week.
like
Thanks.
this is not cool. Thank you so much for this. Can I have this comped? So, so
Yes.
the police are already coming, and sirens are going everywhere. Like people are all over the place outside. People are screaming. Like people are telling them to stop clogging the streets because everyone's crowding around this area now. It's absolute mayhem because people are already out for these celebrations, so they're in celebratory mode, and now all of a sudden sirens are coming flying down here. Someone yells out a window, somebody's been shot. Like, so it turns out Stembridge ran into another part of the Sanford building where one George Edwin Sibley had an office.
Okay.
When Officer Eugene Ellis, like once again, and Sheriff Dennis Cox came on the scene, they walked up the stairs to where the second murder had occurred, and they heard a shot. So when they get up there, they find Marion Stembridge on his stomach on the floor outside of the judge's office. There was blood pooling around his head. He apparently had heard the cops approaching and put a gun in his mouth and pulled the trigger.
Oh, wow.
Now, in that Georgia Tales book by Ray Chandler, it says that the state solicitor, Shep Baldwin, who Marion Stembridge had visited that morning and definitely planned to kill, he just showed up next to them at the crime scene. And in the book, Eugene Ellis says, quote, "To this day, I don't know how he got there. I don't remember hearing him walk up on me, but when I looked around, he just said, 'It's over now, ain't it, boy?'" So I'm like, that seems shady.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on there?
I'm sorry, excuse me, what?
I was like, whoa,
It's over now. Ain't it, boy?
ain't it, boy?
I just, yeah.
was like,
that
whoa.
makes sense. Like, that's how the movie ends.
Whoa.
It's over now. Ain't
Ain't
it,
it,
boy? And the
And
credits
then it
roll.
fade to black. Like,
Boom.
whoa.
Kind of love it, but it didn't end there. I bet.
Hotshot Australian attorney Nicola Gaba was born into legal royalty. Her specialty? Representing some of the city's most infamous gangland criminals. However, while Nicola held the underworld's darkest secrets, the most dangerous secret was her own.
She's going to all the major groups within Melbourne's underworld, and she's informing on them all.
I'm Marcia Clark, host of the new podcast, Informants Lawyer X. In my long career in criminal justice as a prosecutor and defense attorney, I've seen some crazy cases, and this one belongs right at the top of the list.
She was addicted to the game she had created. She just didn't know how to stop.
Now, through dramatic interviews and access, I'll reveal the truth behind one of the world's most shocking legal scandals. Listen to Informants Lawyer X exclusively on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, and listen to more Exhibit C true crime shows early and ad-free right now.
In a quiet suburb, a community is shattered by the death of a beloved wife and mother. But this tragic loss of life quickly turns into something even darker. Her husband had tried to hire a hitman on the dark web to kill her. And she wasn't the only target. Because buried in the depths of the internet is the kill list, a cache of chilling documents containing names, photos, addresses, and specific instructions for people's murders. This podcast is the true story of how I ended up in a race against time to warn those whose lives were in danger. And it turns out, convincing a total stranger someone wants them dead is not easy. Follow Kill List on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Kill List and more Exhibit C true crime shows like Morbid, early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus. Check out Exhibit C in the Wondery app for all your true crime listening.
So when they
they could do that trick thing where the credits roll and then
and then boom, we're back.
yeah.
We're back. So when they searched Marion Stembridge's hotel room at the Baldwin Hotel, they found out just how scary and bizarre he really is.
I think they already knew.
There was guns, bullets, other weapons literally in every corner of the room, all over the floors. When they later went to his office, they found a suicide note.
Oh.
It was dated for May 1st, 1953, and it was handwritten, and it said, "To whom it may concern, I just do not care to be sentenced for another crime I did not commit. In this connection, I will not be able to do my full duty. I can only do the best that I can. Marion W. Stembridge. I was convicted by tampering with the jury."
Wrong.
So they took this duty he speaks of to kill as many people he saw as enemies before the police were called.
Yeah, that's what I think.
And he would then shoot himself in the mouth, obviously. That's why he says he won't be able to fulfill his full duty, but he'll do his best because he knows he won't be able to hit them all, but
he's going to hit as many
as he can. So when they checked the weapons on his person, at the time of his death, he had 8 extra magazines with him, prepared to kill a ton of other people.
Damn.
They also deduced that he was planning it on that Friday because he dated the note for Friday, and he also had tried to show up to Ennis's office, but he wasn't there.
Right.
So on this list, they knew other than the 2 he actually killed, Marion Ennis and Stephen Biven, or Pete Biven, he was going to kill Shep Baldwin, Eva Sloan, who only didn't die because she happened to leave Marion Ennis's office just before he came in, and he didn't have time to look for her because he had to get out of there. Mm-hmm. Judge Carpenter, J.C. Cooper, the clerk, his ex-wife Sarah.
He was going to kill Sarah?
Yep, and they think that Eugene Ennis was also on that list. Now, a kid who was in town that day, in the book, he said he was like 10 years old, and I just wanted to put this in because it's like he was like at a corner store.
It's a movie.
Living his life as a 10-year-old. And he said he was there throughout the whole thing. And he said, quote, "I remember seeing him bring Ennis's and Biven's bodies out. They were covered in sheets, but the sheets looked like somebody had dumped a bucket of blood over them. Those were the first murdered people I ever saw."
Wow.
And I was like, damn, you were 10.
That's like some Stand By Me shit.
Now, the celebrations went on, by the way.
That's wrong.
They canceled the parade for that afternoon, but the ball and pageant went on as planned, and the celebrations panned out for the rest of the week went out too.
Like, would it feel the same to be crowned Miss Georgia in that moment?
Probably not.
No.
But Bivens and Ennis apparently had both were big in planning the celebrations.
Sure.
And so I think it was their families who were like, they would have wanted this to go on and people to be happy and have a fun time with this whole. And I think they did honor them at they mentioned them at times. But they did make it a big deal to go on with these celebrations like nothing happened.
Yeah, that's
They were like, the
troublesome.
birthday is important. We need to and wait until I read you part of the newspaper article that sent me to the moon because I can't.
To the moon, Alice.
So it's really crazy. So a story in the Atlanta Constitution on May 5th, 1953 is the most wild thing I've ever heard. Maybe it's just me. But it was about this sesquicentennial, and then suddenly it makes this insane comparison. Now it says this: "No mother, saddened by tragic death in the family in the midst of preparations for a beloved child's birthday party, ever rallied more bravely than did the old town of Milledgeville as it hid its grief over the Saturday slaying of 2 of the leading citizens and put its best foot forward to receive the first of 10,000 visitors to attend the week-long sesquicentennial celebration.
Priorities.
No mother, saddened by the death of somebody beloved while planning their beloved child's birthday party, has ever rallied.
Who writes
like
this
Milledgeville?
Who writes this
For
shit?
this party we made up. Are you kidding me?
That's a lot. That's a response to a trauma.
The newspaper is really concerned with proving that the residents of Milledgeville are stoic and able just to forget an actual murder rampage.
That is
happened that day.
so of the time, though.
It truly is. Because then the next thing it says in there is the deaths of attorneys Marion Ennis and Stephen Bivens before the blazing gun of banker grocer Marion Stembridge Saturday was still uppermost in many minds. But as soon as the second funeral that was Bivens was over at 4 p.m., the town turned resolutely to staging the finest 150th birthday party for the finest town in the US of A.
Dude, they straight up pre-gamed this party with a funeral.
And then there was an asterisk, and it says, rights for Stembridge, who killed himself after the double murder, will be held privately Tuesday.
So, like, go to those if you're in the need for an after party, question mark.
I love that it's like, everyone was so grief-stricken over these brutal murders. But then they were like, fuck, it's our town's 150th birthday. And we're the best town in the damn US of A. It's like,
you know what? I feel like
whoa.
Stars Hollow would do that
Whoa,
shit.
whoa, yeah, I think so too.
Lots of connections here.
That was a lot. So that newspaper kind of blew my goddamn mind. And I have it still up here because what was I have to find the other part that it's like they just go. So they're going right from like, you know, the double murder, killed himself, and if you want to go to that, that's fun. That's happening privately on Tuesday. And the next thing is blue-eyed, fair-haired Betty McMillan, 21, winner of the county-wide competition for the title of Queen of the Sesquicentennial, was introduced to her subjects in a gigantic parade through downtown streets at 4:30 p.m. So that same day,
They crowned their queen.
they paraded this down the streets at 4:30. The same
Imagine.
streets that Stembridge had just murdered people on.
There's still blood on those streets.
Like, what the is happening?
Wow.
Really blew my
Priorities,
mind.
man.
Really
Priorities.
blew my damn mind. So stoic.
That's a lot. That's a lot to unpack.
So somehow this gets slightly weirder. So
How?
investigators went to Stembridge's store to clean up the mess and start, like, you know, going through the will and all that. Maybe find some more evidence of him being a shitty person. And they found 5 locked safes. So immediately they're like, what?
Let's break those locks.
What could be in there? So they open them. They have somebody come in and open them. What do you think was in
Canned
that
goods.
safe?
Canned goods.
Kind of close,
Cheese?
I guess. Should have been. Jars of his own urine.
What?
Yep. They were all labeled with his name and the dates that they were collected. And they had notes saying that when he died, they were to be tested so it could prove that he was poisoned. They also found rusty nails in some of the safes and guns.
What?
Yeah. I mean, things you keep in safes.
Imagine they're all definitely talking about it before they like open these up, and they're like,
Like,
oh,
are there body parts? Are they like,
yeah.
is there going to be some crazy like paperwork that leads us to this like
Jars
nutso
of
investigation? Just jars of piss.
Ew. And then imagine
his
being
name on 'em.
the person to clean that up, and then it's in his will that they need to be tested.
Yeah, and then it's just like there that they need to pass. I'd be like, no.
so then they have to.
We're not
like,
doing that.
Legalities.
Well, also in his will, he left Sarah $1.
what a fucking ass.
And that was literally like required by law because they weren't legally divorced
Of
yet.
course. Wow, what an asshole. I would take all of that piss. I'd be like, technically that's mine too. And I would pour it over his grave. For better or for worse.
But he left the rest to his 2 sisters that he talked about.
What about his child?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Evelyn. I don't know where she ever went.
Girl.
But what's crazy is Eugene Ellis, the like main guy here, he later became chief of police there, and he bought Marion Stembridge's desk when it went to auction.
That's a choice.
Isn't that a real choice?
Choices.
He used it for a long time. He also kept the handwritten suicide note.
That's,
It's a moment. I mean, he was a big part of this case.
Yeah.
And the desk, I guess, was the one that when he came to arrest him, like, he, like, tackled him over. So I guess it's like...
Okay, so yeah, okay.
That I get. The
Sure.
desk I get. Like, the suicide note, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a big part of the case. I think...
Sure.
There's, like, one of the police chiefs in, like, the lady in the Dunes case, like, had her skull in the thing as,
Yeah,
like, a
but that was, like, a reminder to,
But
like,
so-
find her.
But people keep, like,
Yeah.
odd things, I suppose.
They do.
But I thought that was interesting, and I kind of get the desk, because I'm like, I
get
wouldn't
the
want it, because I
desk.
feel like it has, like, bad
Bad vibes.
on it. But, like, I guess get it.
I would just keep the urine. I would keep one jar of that
I would
urine.
keep
and
the urine,
I would.
she says.
I would put it in like in a case, and I'd be like, you know whose urine that is?
She said she'd keep the urine.
Not all of it.
I wonder if the urine is around, or if they just got rid of it right away.
They must have had to test it. So
maybe.
There's no way the urine's still around.
They didn't test that shit.
No,
There's no way
definitely
they were
didn't.
listening to that. So in 1989, there was a book written called Paris Trout, and it was written by Peter Dexter, and it was loosely based on this rampage, in case you want to read it. But I guess the town of Milledgeville was very upset about this because, again, it was loosely based. He never claimed it was the actual story, but they don't like this being brought up because it's like it's kind of a black splotch on the community.
They don't like it being brought up because they're having some regrets on celebrating.
Because it's a lot.
Post-murder.
And there was a movie made in 1991 called Paris Trout.
Oh, I want to watch it.
Yeah, and I guess I haven't seen it. I've never heard of it.
Let's watch it.
We should watch it. In the home he once shared with Sarah, it was like a boarding house. It burned down in 2019.
Oh, no.
But before that, it was said to be haunted by Marion, who would stomp through the hallways.
I believe that.
And now
just
people
piss
say
everywhere.
that the campus theater is haunted by him.
Oh, I bet.
Because he died like right upstairs in like an office thing.
I mean, that's a fun
And the
rumor.
rampage happened like right up there.
Yeah, I want to go there. Also, I just had an idea. We should watch that movie and then do a Patreon episode on it.
Oh, we should.
Hi, patrons.
We'll watch, what is it?
Paris
Trout. We're going to do it.
Yay.
So that's the tale of Marion Stembridge.
That was wild. Where did you end up finding that?
Somebody recommended it. I like randomly had it in a list. I don't think I came up with it myself. Maybe I did, but I think it was a list of ones that I had like taken from people
Like Twitter
with
and
suggested.
stuff.
Yeah, so whoever suggested that, you rock, because that was really
thank you.
interesting to look up.
That was very interesting to listen to, so thank you.
You know I love an old-timey murder, and you gave me a good one.
I know, sorry, I just punched my microphone.
That's okay. We do it all the time. But thank you so much for if that was a suggestion, which I believe it was. Thank you so much, and you guys rock at suggestions.
Yeah, feel free to always like tweet at us suggestions, message them to the email.
Because I didn't know about this one, so I never would have found it.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
You guys rule.
Oh, we also have a forum for suggesting
forum.
cases.
We do.
Talk until I can find it.
We have a form. Forms are fun to have for these things because they keep them all in one area. And that way you can suggest cases and we will actually see them and they won't get lost in the abyss.
Exactly.
Because I don't know if I've said this, but like, I don't look at the email anymore. So I won't see them. Ash will have to like pass them along to me. But I did ask on Twitter the other day and I got so many good ones. So you guys rule. And I love you so much. I found it. And this is a lot of fun to do.
Okay.
Here's the form.
Thank you. I'm going to end up posting this on Instagram or somewhere, but if you're an old and you don't do that, then it is https dot, hold on.
No.
It's https :/2 forms.g. I'm gonna have to post this because I'm not reading all of those letters.
We'll just post it
We'll
in the
just
show
post
notes
it.
too if you want. We'll put it in the show
Yeah,
notes.
in the show notes.
It's going to be all over the place.
You get those by going to listen wherever you listen. If you click on the episode, there should be an episode description. That's what that
the show
is.
notes. Just because we've had a couple
confusing.
people that were like, what is a show note?
It's confusing.
And I feel that because before I did a podcast, I'd be like, what is a show note? So
Right.
we get it. So that's where that is.
Thank you.
I'll also link
HTTPS
this book
/
because this book is really interesting and has a lot of Georgia stories in it. And Ray Chandler's did a good job telling this story. I wonder if I should I can try to post the link to the ancestry tree, but you might have to sign up for an account to see it.
A lot of people have accounts though. So.
But yeah, and this was fun.
Love you, and we hope you keep listening.
And we hope you
Keep
it
weird. But that's whether you go on a killing rampage and then you're like, oh, you know what? I'm done with my killing rampage. The town should just celebrate HBD town, yay! And not so weird that you're in and you're safe
jars of urine
everywhere.
If you like Morbid, you can listen early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts. Prime members can listen ad-free on Amazon Music. Before you go, tell us about yourself by filling out a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.